I know we've said this repeatedly on Bloomberg, but just remind us or tell us again exactly who this prince is and how important he is to the future of Saudi Arabia.
Sure. Well, let's start by telling everybody that his nickname is Mr. Everything, which is to say that he has basically been put in control of massive swaths of Saudi Arabia, of the kingdom. He has portfolio over economic policy. He's in charge of the state oil monopoly, Aramco. He is in charge of the defense ministry, and he's in charge of the National Investment Fund. He's the 31-year-old youngest son of the king. He's the deputy crown prince, which puts him second in line to succession. And over the past year or so, he's consolidated that control, and he's rolling out what is a very dramatic and aggressive plan to redo the kingdom's economy and society.
Is he, Matt, because he's not the next in line to the throne, but is he considered sort of this new, the emblematic of the new generation of leaders in Saudi Arabia?
Precisely. It is well considered that he will at one point sit on the throne of the kingdom, and he represents basically half of the country's population. They are under 30, they're educated, and they're very underemployed. The state basically controls the economy, and there's not a lot of job opportunity in the private sector. He's hoping to expand that for members of his generation. He's interested in loosening up women's role in the kingdom. He sees that as a real headwind to bringing modernity into the kingdom and bringing outside investment as well.
Matt, he doesn't care if oil's at $30. He doesn't care if it's at $70. He wants to lessen the dependency on oil within 20 years. I mean, how realistic is that?
Isn't that an amazing thing for him to be saying? They don't care if it's at 30 or 70. We'll see if that's true, but that's what he told us. So his point is that that's not his battle. They have the lowest cost oil on the planet. They can produce far below anybody else. So the way he sees it is that if prices are high, that's more revenue to disperse into this sovereign wealth fund and to put into non-oil investments that will, a lot of which will be overseas. And if prices fall, that gives them the chance to grab more market share, to expand into downstream assets, and to get into Asia in particular.
This is big movements that he wants to implement in an inherently conservative society, Matt, and there's a lot of Al Saud family members who could be standing in his way. What's been the response to this vision?
Last year, there was a letter that was signed by a number of the princes. The royal family, as you mentioned, there are 10,000 princes or so. He had clearly ruffled their feathers. This not only means less power for them, but probably less money. And I talked to Senator Lindsey Graham last week, who spent time with him recently, and the impression that he got was that he really wants to define the royal family by their obligations, no longer by their pedigree and by their wealth and how much more they have than the rest of the Saudis. That is a huge change and is going to be a delicate maneuver for him politically, but he feels like he has the backing of half of the country because they are of his generation and they're ready for change.